Don't let anyone fool you. Horror isn't all about scaring the pants off of you. Okay, it's definitely the most fun part, but at its best, horror fiction uses that scary stuff as a vehicle for exploring the human condition. Going all the way back to his 2011 debut, Absentia, supernatural beings have haunted the work of director Mike Flanagan. From the grounds of Hill House to the halls of the Overlook, Flanagan's ghosts may be excellent scare fuel, but they also stand in for the emotional hurdles that his characters have to overcome. Now, with Midnight Mass out on Netflix, let's take a closer look at Mike Flanagan's use of supernatural symbolism, because the scariest monsters are the ones of our making. Be warned, there are spoilers ahead.
A ghost can be a lot of things. A memory, a daydream, a secret, grief, anger, guilt. Most times a ghost is a wish.
As Stephen Crane would tell you, a ghost isn't always as simple as a spirit in a spectral bedsheet. Through the eyes of the protagonist, ghosts can be walking or floating manifestations of their greatest fears and failings. After all, what haunts us more than the pain of the past? And to what lengths will we go to save ourselves from future pain? We'll come back to that question later. There's no clearer example of ghosts as a symbol in Flanagan's work than The Haunting of Hill House and The Haunting of Bly Manor. But let's forget about the ghosts in those houses for just a second and think broadly about the characters in those shows. At its core, Hill House is really about a group of adult siblings reckoning with childhood traumas. And while many of the characters drawn to Bly Manor are plagued by something in their past, Dani's guilt over her fiancé's death is a centerpiece of that series. Both of those setups are fertile ground for drama, and that's actually key for making ghosts scary. See, oftentimes in horror, the more you care about a character and what they're going through, the scarier the situation they're suffering through becomes. We know how sensitive little Luke Crane is, and so we know how ill-equipped he is to deal with that. And we feel for Luke as an adult struggling with addiction because we know that it's a coping mechanism for the awful past he's running from at Hill House. That past manifests as the ghosts of Hill House, stalking the Cranes as they try to move on. Bly Manor's au pair, Dani, is also haunted by a tragic past. Dani blames herself for the death of her fiancé, whose ghost appears to her on the grounds of Bly. The last thing she remembers seeing before he died were the headlights of the oncoming truck reflected in his glasses. This visual detail is used to connect the ghost's appearance directly to Dani's trauma. And though it may have been an accident, the guilt Dani feels over Edmund's death carries forward into her relationship with Bly's groundskeeper, Jamie, who was an important factor in Dani's decision to return to Bly permanently, leaving Jamie heartbroken. So ghosts are excellent vehicles by which the past can come back to haunt us. But with an eye toward the hereafter and a story about the dangers of extremism, Midnight Mass needed monsters with a little more bite. The show takes place on Crockett Island, a community in desperate need of hope. So when the mysterious Father Paul arrives and paralyzed teens start standing out of their wheelchairs, the town pours all of their faith into their new priest. What they don't know is that faith will never be enough for the angel whose bidding Father Paul is doing. Mike Flanagan brings the duo's dangerous influence to life using the iconography of vampire fiction. Of course, it all starts on Father Paul's pilgrimage when he first encounters the angel. The decrepit old priest gets a new lease on life thanks to his, baptism, and believes that he must bring this positive influence back to his community. He ships it back home to Crockett Island. He invites it in. As we all know, not something you want to do with a vampire. Noble though Father Paul's intentions may be, they exclude the people of Crockett who don't want this to be their higher power. And the minority who refuse attending Midnight Mass have reason to be worried. As time goes on, the churchgoers become increasingly paranoid of those who aren't willing to pay the high price for one of Father Paul's miracles. Father Paul's angel, with its bottomless, inhuman hunger, comes to stand in for the creeping influence of extremism on the town. After all, it's along religious lines that people start to split. Riley from his family, Ali from Sheriff Hassan. The people of Crockett Island start to forget their bonds once Father Paul arrives with his bloodthirsty master. That thirst is a theme that carries through in one of the more well-known vampire rules Flanagan employs. Often, a vampire's victim must drink their blood if they are to become a vampire themselves. Flanagan employs that aspect of vampirism in a powerfully symbolic way. The blood sacrament Father Paul gives to his congregation. The most fervent of Father Paul's followers, none more so than Bev Keane, come to regard communion as the only thing that matters, a litmus test for true believers seeking eternal life. Crockett Island's eventual obsession with blood starts well before anyone becomes a true vampire. And that's what Flanagan is getting at. People don't need a bite on the neck from a vampire to be a monster. Immortality sounds great on paper, but be careful what you wish for. The supernatural is always more impactful when it's rooted in something natural. Mike Flanagan's horror keeps this at the forefront, with the characters' deepest fears and insecurities manifesting as the ghosts, vampires, or other creatures of the night that they have to face down. Let us know if some new meaning jumps out at you the next time you watch one of Mike Flanagan's movies or TV shows on Netflix.